Coming up on AgweekTV, more COVID aid is coming, but not in the form of direct payments, and it could have an impact on future farm program spending. Tom Vilsack is back as U.S. Ag Secretary, but with a new agenda. Farmers gear up to plant more soybeans in 2021. We have analysis of the March WASDE report, and meat packing plants were hit hard by COVID outbreaks. Now workers are next in line for vaccines. Welcome to AgweekTV. I'm Michelle Rook. Another $1.9 trillion of COVID relief advanced this week. The American Rescue Plan Act includes more than $16 billion for agriculture, but unlike previous packages, contains no direct payments for farmers and ranchers. There is $4 billion to address food supply chain disruptions and make investments in processing, plus provide worker protections. There's also money for food donations for families in need and $5 billion in debt relief for farmers of color. Because of the way the COVID bill was passed in Congress, Senate Ag Committee Ranking Member John Bozeman warns it may trigger the pay-as-you-go rules. The Democrats use budget reconciliation as the vehicle for the package, which could result in automatic spending cuts under pay-go rules. This could slash future farm program spending.
If it does go through the pay-go rules, we could really see farm programs zeroed out within the next 5 years. There's certainly some huge implications for agriculture and where we go with farm programs. So if there isn't a waiver done by the Senate, it's going to have a big impact on what we see from farm programs at the Ag Department.
WIC reported on Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack during his first term at USDA. He sees Vilsack's agenda a bit different this time, with market development still important, but more attention paid to COVID aid, climate change, and diversity within the agency. U.S. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack says even with COVID aid one of his top priorities, the payout of a third tranche of more than $15 billion in CFAP AA payments remains on hold while they review the program. In an interview with AgriPulse and while speaking at Commodity Classic, Vilsack says a full review may take several weeks. However, so far they're finding only a small portion of the ag industry benefited substantially from the first two COVID aid packages.
That's why it's important to really be careful about evaluating what has taken place, figuring out what needs to take place with the additional resources that Congress has made available, and making sure that at the end of all of this, we've done the very best job at USDA of trying to provide as much help to as many people who are in need as possible.
Vilsack says he's also focused on market development to help farmers improve their profitability. This includes exports, new carbon markets, and more local processing.
I think there is a chance for us to have better markets from a standpoint of openness and greater transparency and potentially creating processing competition, if you will, that creates new opportunities, local and regional food systems.
Vilsack is alarmed 90% of farmers don't make the majority of their income from farming and wants to change that. He says he'll also ask Congress for money to rebuild USDA as staffing was cut in half over the last 4 years. USDA punted on domestic supply and demand changes in the March WASDE report. They left U.S. corn ending stocks and South American production unchanged and increased world ending stocks 1.2 million metric tons. U.S. soybean carryout was also static, but is still at pipeline supplies. Brazil production was raised 1 million ton, but offset by a 500,000 ton cut in Argentina. And U.S. wheat carryout was unchanged, but world stocks were lowered 3 million tons with an increase in China feed wheat usage. Joining us with report analysis is Randy Martinson. And Randy, USDA really didn't do anything with U.S. ending stocks. They kicked the can down the road. So when will they actually have to make some of these revisions?
We'd hope that they would do it fairly soon. And, we do have the quarterly grain stocks coming out here in March, at the end of March, and also the prospective plannings report. But I don't think they'll do it in that. That's going to only be mid-year. I think we're going to be looking at possibly we'll have to see the June quarterly grain stocks report come out, and that would show up in the July numbers.
South American production was left unchanged on corn. We got slight revisions in soybean production. I guess the surprise was that USDA actually increased Brazilian production 1 million metric tons, which is confusing with all the production issues they've had.
and with some of the privates now starting to come with lower production estimates. So yeah, that was a surprise. Right now with the delayed in the harvest, we're starting to hear and see some pretty poor pictures coming out of the region. I was a little surprised that they did it. I really don't think we've got a 133 crop coming out of Brazil.
So Randy, one of the revisions that USDA did make on a world basis was lowering world wheat ending stocks 3 million metric tons. And where did that come from?
The biggest share of that came from China feed wheat was increased by 5 million metric ton. And that, it's the second month in a row that we've seen them increase their feed usage in China. So it tells us that maybe some of the rumors or the concerns about slowing down corn demand into China is real, and that wheat is what's taking its place.
Yeah, because corn prices are too high, so they're feeding wheat instead.
Exactly. They've been seeing a huge increase in corn prices. They've been releasing wheat out of their reserves. They've been importing wheat from the U.S., and this kind of shows that they're leaning more towards wheat than they are towards corn.
So now the big key will be both the prospective plantings and the quarterly stocks report, right?
That acreage report at the end of the month, it'll overshadow the quarterly grain stocks, but that's something that's important to watch because it will give us an idea of just where the demand has been at for the first half of the marketing year.
And you can get full analysis on our AgWeek market wrap at agweek.com. With soybean prices at multi-year highs, interest in growing the crop is reaching the highest levels in recent memory. It's our AgWeek cover story. Soybean acreage is expected to rise in 2021. The question is, by how much? USDA projects 2021 soybean acreage at 90 million acres, up about 7 million acres from a year ago. Credit part of the rise to price. Average cash soybean prices shot from $8.28 per bushel in May 2020 to $10.90 per bushel in January 2021. That's the last month USDA has statistics, but that cash price is the highest beans have been since late 2014. Chad Hart at Iowa State University says those are profitable levels. However, he warns about volatility, so risk management is imperative.
As quickly as we've come up in prices, we can move back down, especially if we do get all the acreage we're expecting and we do get moisture coming back into the Great Plains and the Midwest here. The idea is the market is willing to move very quickly in either direction.
We'll know more in late March when USDA releases its annual prospective plantings report. You can read more in the next AgWeek magazine or at agweek.com. Persistent drought this winter may have some bearing on what farmers plant in 2021, and atmospheric scientist Eric Snodgrass says it has many farmers concerned. Looking at current drought conditions, he says the region needs 200% of average moisture this spring just to get back to normal. As far as the drought outlook, he says long-range models show La Nina building back in the spring and early summer, which is correlated with drought in the Midwest.
And what we continue to see is their outlook is such the drought persists across our state, possibly being lesser on the eastern side, but certainly as you get to the central and west, it is supposed to continue to be there.
Snodgrass says if the drought expands east across the southern plains, it will limit moisture from the Gulf reaching the Dakotas this spring. The balance of summer, he's watching sea temperatures off the west coast. If they park the ridge over the central U.S., it means a dry growing season. However, none of the long-range models currently want to do that. The South Dakota Senate killed a proposal to block the merger of the state's Agriculture and Environment and Natural Resources departments. On Monday, the Senate defeated a resolution of disapproval by an 18-17 margin. There was a motion to reconsider, but it was withdrawn on Tuesday. Governor Kristi Noem proposed the merger through an executive order to save money and create a one-stop shop for farmers. Either chamber could have stopped it with a majority vote. Coming up on AgweekTV, our livestock tour continues with an operation producing lamb solely for meat rather than wool.
Small or large, Superior Grain Equipment has a storage solution for you. From top to bottom, we offer the industry's best bins and warranties to protect your products and your grain storage investment. Make the superior choice today with Superior Grain Equipment.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running. no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire. We keep the tough going.
At North Star Ag, we're more than your short-line machinery dealer. We're also full service, and we're farmers first. That means we know it's not about what's best, but what's best for your farm. Whether you're planting, growing, or harvesting, we're there for all your equipment, parts, and service needs. And we've been doing it since 2009, with the largest inventory and availability in the area. Check us out at northstar-ag.com or call us at 701-361-4790.
Celebrate National Ag Week by attending the 39th Annual AgWeek Farm Show, March 23rd and 24th at farmshow.agweek.com. This year's show is virtual, and AgWeek's Michelle Rook will be talking to Gabe Brown on soil health, Mary Kay Thatcher on egg policy, and a panel of experts on what's happening in the markets. Register early for a chance to win prizes. Learn more at farmshow.agweek.com.
Superior Grain Equipment is committed to quality and service. Protect your bottom line and your future with superior quality, protection, and reliability. Make the superior choice today with Superior Grain Equipment.
For Ag Week, this is Mikkel Pates at Watertown, South Dakota.
We'll look at the positive impacts that dairy can have on the community.
A Minnesota couple has put a grain bin to a new use. Spoiler alert, it's not grain.
This elaborate system of tubing with the downhill slope is how Maplewood State Park gathers sap to make syrup.
Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of AgWeek TV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well.
The AgWeek Livestock Tour is sponsored by Transova and the Stockman's Livestock Exchange.
Sheep numbers have been contracting in the U.S. for several years, but an uptick in demand for lamb meat is driving a resurgence. On this week's AgWeek Livestock Tour, Jonathan Knudsen talks to a North Dakota operation producing an all-meat breed.
This is Jonathan Knudsen on the AgWeek Livestock Tour. We're here in rural Brockett, North Dakota with a father and son pair of livestock farmers. And you have a particular brand of sheep that you're proud of. For people who aren't familiar with it, please explain about that.
The breed is called Katahdin. They're a hair sheep, so we don't have to shear these. They shed their winter coat out in the spring, just rubbing it against the fence. There's no value in the hair. They're strictly, they're a meat breed, and then we sell breeding stock off the farm with them.
People who aren't familiar with lamb and mutton, they may have had mutton, which doesn't necessarily taste very good, but lamb is a very different product, so please explain about that.
Yeah, the lamb is what you ideally want to go and butcher. On the beef end, it would be like, you don't take your old cow or old bull in to get the steak out of, you do it, and that's the same. The mutton is the old sheep that it's a tough meat, it's not very good tasting, but the lamb, especially on these hair sheep, it's a very mild flavored meat, and people really seem to enjoy eating it.
By and large, it's been a really wonderful winter, so I hope the sheep and lambs are holding up pretty well.
Really, the last couple of days they've stayed in here because we've been cold, but other than that, it's been really nice. Been able to keep it about 40 degrees in the barn.
The family exited the sheep business in 1993, but re-entered in 2005. Hay supplies are good, but prices remain stronger than some expect, in part because of the threat of drought. Alan Wessel has been holding hay auctions at Sauk Center, Minnesota twice a month for 30 years. He says so far they're seeing a good supply of high-quality hay from around the region, but he knows things can change quickly if the dry conditions continue. Wessel says this time of year livestock producers are usually running short on feed, so this auction was a big one, and some producers are buying extra hay now in case of drought.
Always a good insurance policy to have an extra load of hay or two in the shed should we encounter those conditions this summer.
Samples are tested for quality, and typically hay sells for $1 per point of relative feed value. So hay at 150 RFV would go for $150 per ton. Up next, with fewer in-person educational opportunities, how can you get leading-edge information?
Challenges. We all face them at some time. But it seems that ag has seen its fair share over the past few years. Has your farming operation been able to stand the challenges? If not, maybe it's time to talk to the risk management specialist at Martinson Ag. We can help you make the sound decisions to help your operation weather the storm. Martinson Ag, your one-stop shop for crop insurance, livestock insurance, and marketing. We are here to take your operation to the next level.
When the water's high and your yields are low, 'cause your fields have no place for water to flow. Just one call takes care of it all. Call on Field Drainage Incorporated. Call on Field Drainage Incorporated. Call on Field Drainage. The experts in the field.
Salty soils? Meet Calcine, one of the quickest and most effective way to fix salty soils. It's natural, it's easy to use, and most importantly, it works. On sodic soils, on saline soils, on all soils. Put calcium to work leaching salt below the root zone and out of your field, resulting in less compaction, better irrigation, improved health, and lots of these guys for your soil. And higher quality forage, greater yields, and lower bottom line production costs for you. With more than 20 years of use in the industry and a proven track record of bringing life back to challenging soils, you can trust Calcine to ensure your fields are their most productive. Calcine, let's create healthier soils. To learn more about how Calcine can improve the productivity of your fields, contact Jim Erickson or visit calcine.us.
Go beyond the headlines with an AgWeek membership. Get in-depth agribusiness reporting, original farm and ranch stories, and fact-based research for the most comprehensive ag news in the upper Midwest. Experienced ag journalists bring you exclusive ag news, insights, and policy updates you won't find anywhere else. Become a member today and get unlimited access to AgWeek and AgweekTV.
The weather was a roller coaster this week, so will spring go out like a lion? Here's John with our Agri-Weather Outlook.
Weather portion of AgWeek TV now. We get on into March and spring planting becomes a concern. Too little moisture can be a concern. Late season snow is a concern. We are having some early spring weather. We get very warm, we get very cold in between, and often get a few snowstorms fairly late. Not too many though. We're setting up for a fairly dry pattern. In fact, as we look at the overall upper Midwest and upper Plains region, drought becomes a bit of a concern this spring. This was the drought severity, the U.S. Drought Monitor, and you can see a lot of the Northern Plains region is sitting in very dry weather. You get down to the Corn Belt, things right now are looking pretty good, but a little pocket of extremely dry weather around northwest Iowa, and a lot of North Dakota and South Dakota, especially the west, are actually in severe drought with no snow on the ground. A little bit of snow in southeast North Dakota and South Dakota into northern Minnesota this past week, not likely enough to make a big difference. Jet stream right now split, and the big split likely means relatively dry weather. It's also going to keep the frigid weather bottled up. In fact, we may not see any really cold weather again this winter anyway. Jet stream, the split will gradually flatten a bit as we go toward the week. That doesn't look too frightening. It's still going to be a fairly weak overall pattern. A lot of warm weather across the south, mostly comfortably warm. Really some 80s in Florida, but most of the southern states not going to be that warm this week. No real pushes of cold weather either. And toward the weekend, we're going to get some heat. Some 70s getting up into the western Dakotas and eastern Montana, at least for a few days. Next week, a split will start developing again. Looks like a temporary little weak low down in the southern Rockies. That'll move out, won't make much of an impact. Going to keep the weather fairly warm across the western high plains. It's also going to be dry in these areas. The only rain will be in the southeast and the northwest. The second week of the period, we're also talking about some pretty dry weather in the Great Plains. In fact, it may not be any precipitation at all. I don't mean the entire east will have nothing. This is where there might be a scattered rain or snow event, probably mostly rain, snow maybe in New England, but overall the pattern continues to look fairly dry. Now, last week, We took a gander at the future outlook for spring planting, and really this hasn't changed much, but it's worthy of mention again. As we get into the second half of March, it does look fairly mild and wet around the Corn Belt, so where it is wet in the Corn Belt, it'll likely continue to be modestly wet. I don't mean too wet, I just mean there'll be moisture here. The Great Plains, the High Plains, the Rockies looking pretty dry. And as we go into the month of April, I expect dry weather will really take over. We go from cool and damp to warm and dry in the eastern Corn Belt, and generally cool and dry over much of the northern Plains region. Looks like a dry April.
Steffes Group, selling land and the equipment to farm it since 1960. If you're interested in selling or have questions about our auction process, head to our website at steffesgroup.com to contact us at any one of our 4 locations located throughout the Midwest. You can also visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel to view all of our auction previews and recaps to stay up to date on the market in your area.
Dig, lay, and bury drain tile all in one pass with the Crary Tile Pro Plow. The Crary Tile Pro Plow lays tile up to 7 feet deep with boot sizes of 4 to 12 inches. Advantages of installing drain tile to your field provides increased overall yield, improved soil moisture levels, and controls soil erosion. It pays to tile with a Crary Tile Pro. To locate a dealer near you, visit www.crarytilepro.com.
When you think about it, productivity starts at planting. So it's time to rethink how productive your planter can be. We did with the new Case IH 2000 Series Early Riser Planter. We rethought your row unit so it's tougher, more accurate. We rethought your meter, took the most precise technology, factory installed it. We rethought every inch of the Case IH Early Riser Planter to make it the most productive planter around. And if you think about it, that's exactly what you want.
Schedule an uptime inspection for your equipment with the Case IH service professionals at your local Titan Machinery. Our Case IH certified service technicians have the training, experience, and genuine Case IH parts to ensure your equipment is ready for next season. Planting and harvesting windows are short. Have confidence in your equipment's performance with a Titan Machinery multi-point uptime inspection. Titan Machinery, your local Case IH service leader.
We're going to talk today about a revolutionary auto steer product that you guys have developed.
We back one of these things in, it'll drain a 40-acre patch just within hours.
What can you tell us about what dairy farmers do to make sure that their animals are happy?
Their care is our primary concern.
Is there still time for producers to get storage bins up?
Absolutely. We still can definitely get something up and ready for corn harvest.
The AgWeek Soil Health Minute is sponsored by the North Dakota Corn Council and the North Dakota Soybean Council.
Most in-person events farmers rely on for educational updates have been canceled this year, which can leave room for misinformation to spread. In this Soil Health Minute, AGWEEK has advice for finding cutting-edge information.
Farmers are getting a lot of information this winter virtually, and it's tough to know what you should believe and shouldn't believe. So with that question, I went right to one of the experts on the East Coast, Suzanne Wainwright Evans, who works in entomology and works with industry and also farmers, on how do you decipher what information you should believe and shouldn't believe. So Suzanne, can you guide us through that process?
One of the things I do, who's giving you that information? And I want to know, are they qualified to be giving you this information? And so I always have in my back pocket for each of the different segments of the industries I work with some key questions I want to ask these people to see if they can pass that like litmus test. Then I also ask if there's any research to back this information up. Can you cite any papers? Because unfortunately, a lot of anecdotal stuff gets passed around, and we want to have good, solid, replicated research to prove or disprove these anecdotal observations.
Great input, Suzanne. Thanks for answering that question on how to decipher what information is good information.
COVID vaccinations continue, and now essential workers like those at packing plants are in line. Details next.
You can get the field results you want in varying conditions with the flexibility of the Summers VRT Renegade. featuring on-the-fly blade angle adjustment from 0 to 19 degrees. And if you want the simplicity of a super coulter with the ability to move a little dirt, you'll love the all-new Summers Super Coulter Samurai. Go to summersmfg.com or visit your local dealer to learn more about North America's broadest line of tillage equipment and other products from North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing.
This is Dennis Belisky reminding you we do auctions and we do them well. You've built your operation with hard work, and when it's time to sell, all or part, you deserve the best. Details from repairs and preparation to promotion and settlements are not routine. Chances are you'll only do this once, so we'll tailor an auction just for you and get it done right. On-site at your farm or added to one of our highly successful Alaris Center auctions, we have the skill, reputation, and integrity to meet your needs with best-in-class commitment and quality service. Find us at resourceauction.com or call 701-757-4015.
When it comes to grain storage and handling solutions, one call does it all. Gateway Building Systems, the #1 Brock bin dealer in the U.S., is locally owned and provides turnkey convenience with factory direct product, complete design services, and in-house construction. Now's the perfect time to take advantage of discounts on Brock solid bins, grain dryers, and aeration systems. For more information, go online to gatewaybuilding.com or call 1-800-747-4499.
Giddy up, partners. It's time for the 84th Annual North Dakota Winter Show in Valley City, March 10th through the 14th. Don't miss the PRCA rodeo performances starting Friday, March 12th. And with thrilling events all weekend long, there's something for the whole family. It's the 84th Annual North Dakota Winter Show. Find our complete schedule and tickets at northdakotawintershow.com or find us on Facebook.
AgWeek brings you timely agriculture news from field to fork in digital, print, and television. Fresh every week, join Jenny Schlecht from the AgWeek editorial team and me, Al Windmill, from the sales and marketing team for a deeper dive into farm and ranch stories, along with guest interviews with personalities from the world of agriculture. If you're involved in farming, ranching, or agribusiness, the AgWeek podcast is the show for you.
Many meatpacking plants were hit hard by COVID, but now some are starting to make vaccines available to the workforce. Tyson and JBS plants in Iowa have recently been able to vaccinate employees, and Minnesota food processor Hormel hopes to have vaccines available in a week or so. Minnesota is accelerating its vaccine timeline, pushing up priority groups that were to start in April. That includes people working in food processing. Hormel has 1,800 workers in Austin, and plant management says they've worked hard over the past year to keep employees healthy, and now they're happy to move to the next phase.
They had to adapt to PPE and social distancing and lots of disruptions in their day in order to keep COVID out, and really have done a phenomenal job.
Carlson did not have the number of plant employees who have had COVID. Join us for the 39th Annual AgWeek Farm Show March 23rd and 24th during National Ag Week. The event will be held virtually at agweek.com. Visit vendor booths and take in great educational events like a market roundtable, ag policy debate, a soil health panel, ways to combat high feed costs, ag contract protections, and specialty crop production. I'll be hosting the discussions and invite you to submit questions ahead of time. We'll also have several prize giveaways. Learn more at agweek.com/virtual show. Thanks for watching this week's edition of AgWeek TV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com, or you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Have yourself a great and safe week.